So today's podcast, we are going to be talking about one of our alumni distinguished. His name is Frank Thomas Jr. And Frank Thomas Jr. is known for some of that sweet treats that all of us enjoy whenever we're going through that drive-through of it. Frank actually graduated from Purdue with a degree in mechanical engineering in 1941. Have you ever heard of Frank Thomas Jr.? Do you know the name?
I haven't.
You haven't, but you might have known his invention. He actually created the General Equipment Company, which was a small company to sell him and his brother's inventions, which happened to be what, Calvin?
Well, one of them, among the many of them, was the first soft-serve ice cream machine. So, you go to Dairy Queen,
Exactly.
You got him to thank for that.
And with that, we, of course, have some soft serve for us all to try a little bit of. You always got to remember, the inventor with trying some of his sweet treats as well. So cheers to Frank Thomas Jr. on that. Yep, cheers to that. And so Frank, he also during this time founded the fast food chain Burger Chef, which he also made flame broiled beef patties. And it was a grill that would help create that and also would speed up that. And he is also credited then with the invention of the soft serve ice cream. So everything you could need out of a burger restaurant, right? A burger and some soft serve.
Mm-hmm. He covered all the bases there. Mm-hmm. And eventually that grill that Nick was just talking about actually ended up being used in Burger King. And then Burger Chef, which he started, grew to over 1,000 stores. And then it was, along with the soft serve ice cream machine, later acquired by General Foods, which morphed into Hardee's. So his legacy still lives on today, that's for sure.
You can see him on every corner then, right? You see it every time. When you see Hardee's or, Burger King, you can think about Frank Thomas Jr., right? So do you have a specific flavor of soft serve you're a fan of, Dr. Ohland?
Ooh, I've never been a big soft serve person,
Okay.
but I'd have to say chocolate.
Chocolate. Yeah, that's good. The swirls, I always love. That's one of the best inventions with the soft serve. You get a little swirl in there. It's really, really good. Calvin, what's your favorite one?
If it's between the chocolate vanilla and the swirl, definitely the swirl.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have to agree with that one. I think it gives you the good mix of the two of them. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into this week's podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coffee Break with Purdue Engineering, the gateway to your next giant leap. In this podcast series, we discuss the many engineering programs and majors here at Purdue through conversational interviews between current Purdue students and Purdue staff and faculty. I'm Nick Buffo, a senior in biomedical engineering, continuing on to medical school in the fall of 2024.
And I'm Calvin Given, a current junior in electrical engineering with a minor in business economics. We really hope you enjoy our show, and it helps answer some of the questions about what it's like to be an engineering student here at Purdue.
All right. Welcome back to this week's episode, where we'll be hearing about some of the purpose, opportunities, and the overview of Purdue's first-year engineering program and engineering education here. I am actually one of your hosts, Nick Buffo, as the name suggests.
And I am Calvin Given, and this week we're joined by the Associate Head of Operations for the School of Engineering Education, Dr. Matthew Ohland. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Matt Ohland.
Welcome, Dr. Ohland. Will you give yourself some of your background and where you, kind of ended up where you are today and, how you got to the position you're in?
Sure. So I have a general engineering degree from Swarthmore College, which actually positioned me well to be more of a generalist, which fits really well with where I am now. So I ended up getting master's degrees from RPI in materials and mechanical engineering, and then a civil engineering PhD from University of Florida. And so now that I'm in the first year engineering program here, where we try to prepare students for all the disciplines of engineering, I think it actually helps me that I'm not committed to selling students on one particular discipline of engineering.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you yourself have studied many disciplines of engineering. You studied the generalist, and you had your civil and mechanical as well, which is awesome. And then how did you end up back here at Purdue? Where did you find yourself in West Lafayette, Indiana?
So when I graduated with my PhD, positions like what I have now, where you can actually do research in engineering education as a faculty member in engineering, that wasn't a thing. And so I started my faculty career at Clemson University, where they were willing to take a chance. They said, hey, we have someone retiring from our first year engineering program there, which they call general engineering. And, did you want to come and maybe be a faculty member? I'm like, yeah, kind of what I've been waiting for. Thanks. Yeah. And so they took a chance on me and it worked out well. I found out that my associate dean actually called the person I worked for at Florida and mocked him for not keeping me at Florida. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's a good boost there, right?
Yeah,
It
I
feels
called him
good.
to say, hey, I wanted you to let you know I got this really big grant. He's like, yeah, I already heard. That's
awesome.
Ooh, that's cold. And then by the time I got tenure at Clemson, the department here in engineering education, the school had been founded. And so they were really interested, partly because I was further along in my career, partly because they had really committed that it was a thing. And so they were growing the program. And I was like, yeah,
I'm coming.
it was time.
Yep, you're ready to be a Boilermaker, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we can start to get into kind of some of the nitty gritty of first year engineering and engineering education here. So let's just start off really, what is the purpose of the first year engineering program that you've mentioned? And then what should students really kind of get out of the program? So the purpose and what's the whole mission and why do we do what we do?
Yeah, so a part of it is just like sort of what do students need to know to move into whatever field of engineering they go into. But the reason why we do it in this sort of general space is students have ideas about what they might want to major in,
Yep.
but half of them change their minds.
Yes.
Yeah, I
And-
think it's like 40%, right?
Yeah,
It's crazy.
And the thing is, if we knew which ones were going to stay where they thought they wanted to be, we would put them there right away, right? And it would be awesome, right?
Yeah.
Because they would be able to get into, they'd be able to dig deep into a particular discipline immediately.
Right.
But we haven't ever found the way to figure out which ones actually know where they want to end up. So half of them, the half that change their minds they have just as good grades as the ones that don't change their minds.
Right.
They're just as confident as the ones that change their minds. They're just, we're out of ideas. So that other part of it, other than sort of what do students need to know to get into any of the engineering programs, is just to give them the opportunity to make an informed decision.
Yeah.
To learn about what's out there. The fact that engineering is this interdisciplinary space anyway, right? So, they say, "Oh, I want to work on energy systems."
Yeah.
Cool. You could do that from mechanical engineering, chemical engiering, electrical
Yeah.
engineering. There's
All of them pretty much touch it.
right. So it's so it's okay, what do you want to do? Because we could put you anywhere,
Right.
kind of thing.
And it's the approach you take to each one of those. And it's kind of how that student has the mindset and the passion what they have helps guide them in. Right. So students come in really not having to make that decision, right? They come into that first year engineering decision, get to take some classes and learn what it means to really be an engineer, and then get to make that decision, be in engineering, which one they want to go into. They help to kind of find, I'm guessing, as well in the first year engineering, how do they kind of find some of those passions? Are there any sort of things that they do? And then how, do they really explore? How do you find what type of engineering you want to do in first year engineering?
Yeah, so we have some kind of basic ways that help students explore. All the different schools, the departments have made videos of this is us kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right, and then they also had a majors fair, yesterday actually, was a majors fair where they got to actually, students got to come in and talk to people hey, I'm trying to decide, I was super into robotics, right, which we get a lot of, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if I want to go electrical, where I'm designing the electronics, or computer, where I'm I'm running the things, or mechanical, where I'm building the mechanical systems that are involved. Right, and so they're trying to make that choice, and so they go and talk to all those people about help me figure out where I want to end up.
Yeah.
Right.
And of course, we also even just in the sort of the context that we use for the projects that they do and the homework assignments that they do, we try to sort of rotate around the different disciplines to get students practice thinking about what kind of work would you do in these different disciplines.
In the different disciplines. Did you know exactly which one you want to go into, Cal?
Oh, I was considering maybe I want to do mechanical, maybe I want to do biomedical, which I know you ended up doing, or maybe I want to do electrical. So basically I was interested in the entire spectrum of what engineers can do. And it really was the first year engineering program that drew me to Purdue, because I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to be, and that was a lot of pressure to make a decision that could impact the rest of my life before I even got into college. So taking that year and being able to actually do some projects that were tailored more towards mechanical engineering versus electrical engineering versus civil or industrial engineering, and then being able to figure out, okay, I like this aspect of that project, this aspect of the other project, and then that coupled with those videos and information sessions that the majors put on helped me make the decision in electrical engineering, and I've enjoyed the major so far. I mean, of course,
great.
there's the ups and downs,
Yes.
but overall, I'm very happy with my decision, and part of that, the reason that I am happy with it is because of the first year program.
First year program. I actually came in. I was kind of I knew I wanted to go biomedical, and that was fueled by my desire to go to medical school and want to move on to being a doctor. But we were doing those sessions, those information sessions, and I was watching some of the videos and went and talked to, and I found if I did not go into medicine, I would do civil engineering and I would do mass transit design. Because I'm intrigued. I love like mass transit, moving systems with people. And then I was like, wait a second, you can make an entire career out of just designing the tracks and the stations and making sure that people are flowing right way. And you get into ergonomics, you get into all these different things that it's like, oh my God, I unlocked a whole world of possibilities here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, wait, hold on. I wanted to be a doctor, but now I'm shifting over back and forth. But,
well, suddenly you're thinking about like, oh my God, maybe I need to major in industrial engineering so that I can plan
it all
of the logistics of the operation. Yeah.
And it was great because I think I would not have ever had that exposure had I not done first year engineering. And it kind of helped, give me I don't want to say a backup plan, but gave me another thing that I'm passionate about and would want to do. But again, I kind of came and knew I wanted to do biomedical and stuck with it just because of that desire to go to medical school. But here we are. I could have done civil engineering and still think it's interesting to this day. And if I have some way, shape, or form to work in that, I will. I hopefully will one day. But I think it's really great to see that and how we can kind of merge all of our different mindsets. Because again, a lot of engineers have very similar background knowledges and training ways and how to think about the problems, and then how they approach it and how they, what they're specifically adding it to is kind of how we get into those different majors.
Yeah, and a lot of times we even use the same equations themselves, and it's just a matter of what we're applying those equations to.
I always love it with biomedical because we joke it's always like throwing it towards like the human body, right? So it's like you may be studying, current on a wire, and I'm like, okay, well here's blood in an artery, and we're both applying. Or when we look at flow systems, like sewage and all of those things, I'm like, well, we also have sewage in our body circulating the blood. So it's funny how it's such basic principles that we can apply to those kind of cool aspects, and that's engineering. That's engineering at its core. Right?
Yes,
and that's all.
Oh yeah, like I heard it all from. My sister went more the biomedical route.
Yeah,
and, I got to hear like I'm looking at like how do I pull apart like nylon to find out what its properties are, and she's like, nylon. I'm working with knee ligaments.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, then nylon's also used in the body as well in some way, shape, or form. And, it's again, it's full circle with everything. So I love that about the first year engineering program. You can kind of find, what that is.
Yeah, and I guess we'll move on to our next question for you. What are the different courses that students take during their first year? And is there elective space so that maybe someone who's dead set on mechanical engineering can take an introductory class to mechanical engineering and figure out if that's actually where they want to end up, or just get a jump start on the program? And then also, how does like AP and IB credit factor in to the first year engineering program here? Is it a cookie cutter program?
Yeah, and those are right, and those are actually really nicely linked questions because sort of how much flexibility you have definitely depends on what kind of credit you bring in, right? Mm-hmm. Even if someone doesn't bring any credit, and I'm a professor here. One of my kids grew up here, went to Purdue Aerospace Engineering, right? So. We didn't stress him out about you got to make sure you have a ton of AP courses and that you jump way ahead in the curriculum, right? Because there's even if you don't, there's still flexibility. The university has general education requirements, the whole foundational curriculum thing. There are certain things you need to do just to be a Purdue graduate, regardless of engineering, and within that. The different majors frequently will make suggestions, right? It's like, hey, you've got all of these different things that you have to sort of check off, and if you wanted to do it in as few credits as possible, you would do some of these, right? They would make suggestions, right? And by doing that, you can sort of optimize how much extra space you have to do other stuff too,
right?
But AP and IB and dual enrollment also where students bring in some credit that counts somewhere in the curriculum, what they'll do is they'll have a discussion with their advisor, right? So someone, say, for example, who has AP credit for like Calc 1, right? The first calculus course, that's the first one in the curriculum. So they would, like, potentially they could skip that one and start in the second one, which not surprisingly is called Calc 2. And I'm thinking even your viewers probably could figure that one out.
Yeah.
But maybe they don't, like, maybe the place where they took Calc 1, like, maybe they didn't feel like they were super confident, right? So they don't want to jump ahead, but take advantage of the fact that they feel like they know what they're doing, right? But where you do, where people do have credits that they bring in, they can take that as extra flexibility. Now, the extra flexibility could mean I'm going to plug in some interesting electives and do a thing, right? And the thing could be, I'm thinking I'm going to get an MBA at some time while I'm here, and there are some programs where you can integrate that into your engineering program. Cool. Some people are like, I would just like to take things a little bit slower. So I'm not going to try and shove in a bunch of other stuff. And then other people are like, we've got people here who are like, I would like to double major with political science because I would like to do like international food service engineering. And they end up like taking a multidisciplinary engineering pathway where they like make up their own degree program.
That's awesome.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. And that you have that flexibility. Yeah. And I know kind of with me and some of the questions we sometimes get is taking a pre-med approach as well, or pre-law or pre-professional, and being able to jumpstart on those courses as well. And that was one of the things.
I'm sure you did that.
Yeah, and I did. I stacked a lot earlier on that allowed me to graduate actually in a semester early. So I graduated 3.5. Thank you. But it was cool because I could actually do that at Purdue, and it wasn't rigid. I could make it my own and keep it flexible. And I also have students that do that 4+1 program where they're starting their master's early and they're getting their master's in engineering in a year following as well. So all of those, again, I think speaks to the flexibility and being able to add those courses in or whatever.
Yeah, I'm actually doing both the 4+1 program and graduating undergrad a semester early because I came in with credits and had that flexibility. When I used it in first year, I actually ended up getting a jump start on my minor because I was interested in doing some sort of business adjacent minor. So I said, okay, I really enjoyed macroeconomics in high school. And so I started by taking microeconomics and then just kind of took an econ class every semester and used those as my gen eds to get the minor that I have as well. Right. And so there's a ton of things you can do with the flexibility, and it's built in just from, even if you don't come in with any credit, but the more credit you come in, as Dr. Ohland was saying, the more flexibility you're going to have.
And that's actually one of the things that I wanted to also, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Ohland, but, if I have no transfer credits coming in or no AP or IB credits, am I still going to graduate in 4 years from Purdue Engineering?
It could happen.
Exactly right. We're built on 4 years, right, at here. And so all the programs are that way. So for those students who maybe don't have AP, IB, or transfer credits coming in, you can still graduate in 4 years. Or if you do, you can help make that, experience, add on, minors, majors, whatever that is that you float your boat, and other students that want to do it. You can really make this experience your own. So that's one of the cool things that I always like to make sure we talk about is that you don't have to have these transfer credits. It can only do, it only is a positive, but there's no negative to not having any in as well. So that also leads us into our next question. So now I'm ready to be a Purdue engineer, right, Dr. Ohland? I'm ready. I'm starting the first year engineering program. And I saw there's 4 different tracks that there are, and that students can take advantage of these. So can you kind of briefly describe what are these 4 tracks and then kind of, what's associated with them?
Sure. Yeah. No. Right. There are these different pathways that, again, it's part of this allowing students to customize their experience. Right. So I'll save sort of the one that has the most students. I'll save for last. Right.
Perfect.
So so EPICS stands for Engineering Projects and Community Service, and EPICS is committed to providing students a client-based project experience. Whenever they take it. So as a first-year student, you would be on a team that would likely have like leadership from higher level students, possibly a project that's been going on for a while, and so an established relationship with a community partner to basically have students designing things that serve a community partner. So it makes it, it's the intent is it makes it more real.
Right.
You actually have, there's some local benefit that happens as a result of your work.
The work that you're doing actually is giving back.
Exactly.
And you feel that, that gratification.
Right. To a local partner.
Right.
As opposed to sort of that ambiguous, like, it's you're partnered
Somewhere.
with a company, and maybe something happens in that company that has an impact, but you maybe don't see it
On a daily basis,
Yeah.
or in the
locally
community.
or for years.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you can see the impact with epics, and that it's really cool. And
Yeah.
it's a good way to apply the skills that you're learning in your course to an actual project.
Yeah, and so then there's this VIP program which has a similar model, but instead of having like a community partner, it's like a research faculty partner.
Okay.
So the idea is what if we did this, but this is for students who might be thinking about more of an academic career or a research career at our research and development kind of career.
Yeah.
So they could, so they partner with someone who has a research project locally, usually with a faculty member, but not necessarily. And so they get that same experience of having like a real partner to work with. But in this case, the deliverable, the outcome is like focused on a research element.
Yeah, it's a great way to get involved with research day one. I know we get a lot of questions of how do you get involved in undergraduate research, and the VIP track is a great way to do that.
It is. And they also potentially have teams that have students who are like also upper division kind of things in those partnerships, because those labs might have students and grad students from that are higher level partnering with those students. Then there's the honors program where if you specifically want to graduate with honors, there's a whole bunch of courses that have specifically targeted at honors. The intent is to provide sort of this richer challenge along with being in a classroom with people who are also up for that kind of thing.
And these students do need to be a part, I don't want to just interject.
Go.
These students do need to be a part of the Honors College, correct? To take part in the Honors program,
That's correct.
Honors Engineering program. And then what's kind of the focus of those courses? Do you know kind of like into like, is there any way they specialize, or what is the kind of the distinguishing?
So part of it is sort of that same general, people need to figure out where they want to go with their major. Part of it is sort of what are those fundamental skills that they need. But the honors program, the track for honors engineering is has one other specific differentiation, which is that their course is actually partnered with the physics sequence.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
That introductory mechanics physics.
Exactly.
Right?
So when students go through the honors engineering, they also get credit for the first physics class.
Oh, wow.
And in doing so, right, the course can actually integrate the two, so that when they're teaching the physics, it's specifically in the context of engineering.
The project.
Yeah.
Wow. And then that last
So
big
right,
one.
and then the majority of our students go through what we call Transforming Ideas to Innovation 1 and 2. It's a 2-course sequence, and that is the one that I have taught in for a bunch of years. I mean, I've been at Purdue since 2006, and most of those years I've been teaching in first-year engineering because I love it and seems to be working out for me. And so. Whereas Epics is sort of very much you're going to have a community partner, right? And VIP, you're going to have a research partner. Many of those also have a real client.
Yeah.
When I've done it, I've partnered with a middle school teacher for students to be developing a project for middle school students.
Yeah.
I've partnered with Kimberly Clark. With students developing, so it's not like that track that most of the students are in. It's not like that doesn't have or doesn't ever have partners, right? But not always, right?
Not always,
partly because with that many students, it could be overwhelming if we had to find a partner for all of those things.
We'd run out of partners, maybe. I think.
Or people get really frustrated with it's like, oh my god, like
so many.
Yeah.
One of the cool partners that I actually had, because I did the Transforming Ideas Innovation, so my professor actually did research and work abroad. And so one of my partners was actually a school in Kenya where we were teaching the students and
I know your professor was.
You know exactly who it was. We worked to actually create a solar and water conservation chip. So that way we could teach the students how to monitor their solar and water use, and also how to track, how much solar is being is actually being tracked at that moment through a sensor, and with that was able to allocate their solar panels to actually be the most efficient they could be. I was awesome. I mean, I didn't think I would ever get to do that type of work, and here I am, standing to this day, being able to do that kind of work. And that was a really cool part just of one of the programs and just one of the many classes that you could have taken there. And in the Ideas Innovation, it's just one of the professors that's teaching it, and all of them have very unique experiences they bring to the table, which is great. Did you do Ideas Innovation?
No, I actually did the honors track.
You did? Okay.
And so one of the cool projects in that one is the 2 big robotics projects each semester. So you have one in the fall, one in the spring. The fall one, we had to make... it's a Mars cargo rover, simulated with Legos, of course, because we don't have the capability to actually get them to Mars for the first year engineering class.
If only we could.
Yes.
We're heading that way, maybe.
Eventually, one day. And then the second one was a disaster response vehicle. And so it had to automatically navigate a maze, characterize hazards, make a map of where it was going, so that you could find a safe route to get to the area that you needed to deliver these relief supplies to, and so that you could then find your way back. And so it was really cool to be able to apply the engineering design process to a longer, more semester-long design project like that, because you definitely had to go through multiple iterations before you got something that drove forward and turned properly.
And I think one of the pivotal parts, or kind of the really unique aspects of first year engineering, especially by bringing all students in the first year engineering program, is that all of these teams were interdisciplinary, right?
Yes.
And that was, I think, such a cool thing. I mean, I'm a biomed by discipline, but I was working with students who were mechanical, working with students who were civil and electrical focused, as well as all the other majors. I think we had a nuclear on our team at one point, and it was funny seeing the kind of the merging of perspectives and how we approach some of our projects, because certain students would have great qualities and they jumped on them for the advantages of that project, but then they also were able to help teach other students, and they're kind of based on what their high school experiences were, but also kind of what they figured out at college. And that was, I thought, a great part of first year engineering, that I actually got to work with people who weren't just biomeds. I got to actually, see the other sides of engineering with that. I'm guessing that's kind of the big goal with first year engineering that you've seen, Dr. Ohland.
Yeah, it's definitely. You've been through it, right? I mean, for years now. I mean, our classrooms, the whole time you've been in school, our classrooms are designed around students functioning in a team.
Yes.
Yep.
And that makes it so. I mean, even when our classes are large, and they're different sizes depending on which of those tracks you go in.
Right.
But the students never say anything about the size of the class, because most of the time the class seems like it's 4 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, your team is all you're working on basically everything with. And so you don't even pay attention to the fact that there's like 76 other kids in the class.
And it's right here, actually. It's the first year engineering program is right here in this brand new building we are actually filming in today. Dudley and Lambertus, the Gateway Complex. And those, I mean, the rooms upstairs, I saw them. They're awesome. I mean, they are great. Like 10, 15 TVs. You can see it at any angle.
Yep.
But the biggest
you can write
thing,
on the tables.
They are whiteboard tables. We were talking about whiteboard walls.
The white
one of
walls.
our episodes.
Whiteboard
Those
walls.
are great.
Those are, I mean, it's really built for collaboration, and that I think is something we just show you. I mean, it's it's there. That's kind of how we build our classrooms. So that's really, really cool that that's first year engineering, and that's what Purdue is. So,
yeah, and I feel like one of the really cool things is that collaboration extends beyond just the first year program and is really at the core of our engineering program as a whole here, because we're striving to emulate industry in the fact that engineering is not a solo sport. You're not going to be sitting behind a cubicle typing up equations or doing calculations. You're going to be working on a team when you're in industry. So we're trying to give you those interpersonal skills while you're here at school.
And that, I think, also speaks to one of the courses that students take in first year engineering are communications requirements, right? Written and oral communication, because not only do we have to write our ideas down and communicate them effectively, I was going to tell you sitting here today. And I think that was a really cool part that, you would think engineering, you're not going to have to talk to anyone. You just crunch the numbers on your table. But you'll find engineering is much, much more than that. And so I love that.
No, it's always started when we hear from a student, they're like, so why did you choose engineering? Because we ask students that occasionally, right? And some of the students are like, I was just really trying to make sure I didn't have to write again. Oops.
But I think I really enjoyed my writing courses at Purdue, and it also gave me a new perspective as well, because they were hosted by other departments, the liberal arts department and the the communications department, because again, expanding your skills not just within College of Engineering but also outside it onto the Purdue's campus was, I think, one of the hallmarks that I liked about it as well.
Yes, I agree with that. I guess we talked a little bit about the projects that we were able to work on. Have you heard of any cool, unique first-year engineering projects that students have gotten to work on?
You mentioned your Kimberly-Clark.
Yep.
I guess, what was that one, or did you hear any others you want to highlight as well? You've got plenty.
Actually, I'll tell you about the one that I partnered with the middle school teacher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was just wild. So I ended up teaching a section that had 3 learning communities in it.
Okay. Three different ones.
3
right?
different ones.
Yep. Wow.
Okay. First year engineering band and orchestra, which, there are a ton of engineering students who are involved in musical programs, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So we had I think we had 40 students in a 120 person classroom that were affiliated with the first year engineering band and orchestra. No, actually it was more than that. That was more than half. It was 60 or more.
Wow. Okay.
Then another chunk of students were in the global engineering.
That was
That
me.
was you?
Yep, that was me as well. Yep, yep.
Was it global engineering programs and practices or something?
Yeah, GEPP. You got it. Yep.
That was their learning community. And then there was the ideas learning community, which is integrating diversity through education and service.
You got it all.
Okay.
You got it
Wow.
all. Yep.
Woo! Right, which was sort of like an epicsy kind of one, even though there's a separate epics learning community. So I'm like, wow, these are all students who signed up for a specific kind of learning experience. I have to have a project that works for all of them.
Oh boy. Back to the drawing board.
That was a challenge.
I'm like, okay, let's go. So the project was this: students would the end deliverable was a visit from a bunch of middle school students.
Okay.
In my classroom.
All right.
And they were gonna have an exhibit that would teach these students about a musical instrument.
Okay.
Bands and orchestra.
Yeah.
Got it.
Band and orchestra people, and they had to have share information about sort of the cultural background about the instrument.
Ideas.
Yep.
Hence
There it is.
the global engineering.
And the global
thing,
as well,
right?
yep.
So it was sort of this is a didgeridoo, and didgeridoos are traditionally only played by men in a religious context, and yada yada yada. Right. So I'm not going to play this for you because that would be weird, because that's and right. But then the students are saying to me, they're like, do we have to make an instrument?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it could get super complicated if you have a lot of students having to build a thing, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, well, I don't need you to build an instrument for me, but if a whole bunch of middle school students come in and you're telling them about a thing, they're gonna want a thing to hold
Yep.
and probably play. And they're like, okay. So I had everything from the kind of drum that you sit on and play.
Oh, yeah.
To it's called a cajon or something, and then there's someone made an alpine horn.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
Which
Wow.
was nuts, right? Other students went much smaller with different types of flutes, or a thumb piano kind of thing.
Wow.
And which the nightmare of those things, of course, is tooting them. But they had great exhibits with with stuff, and some people had recorded music with the stuff and whatever. Right? And so the teacher comes in, the students are there, and so I've got my rubric, which is this is how I'm grading your thing, and the students know what that is. But they also know that the students are going to rate them too.
Oh, the middle school students. They're hard to please.
Oh, they can be.
It was an awesome day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
and being able to merge all those different learning communities and groups together.
crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
And for context for some of our viewers, the learning communities are groups of students who have shared similar interests in a certain thing, like global engineering or bands and orchestra. There are 11 of them housed within the College of Engineering, and you can find them online, actually. And a lot of them have a living community associated with it, so you live alongside those other students. So for more information, you can just Google, Purdue Engineering learning communities, I'm guessing, online.
that would do it.
And that would do it. That'll pull it up. And that's
list.
one thing I always say to look into, because it's a really cool aspect. I was in the global engineering program, and I really got to learn a lot about multiculturalism and working with teams abroad, language barriers, technical language when you're doing.
Hence
you're
the fact
working.
that you end up with the Kenya project.
Kenya project. I was like, after I realized, yeah, that was probably the connection there. But it's still, we had students not in the GEPP program in our class, which was awesome. I mean, and that's kind of how I ended up there. But that's definitely, learning communities are a great way, to enhance your engineering experience here.
Yeah, and to take an interest and just make Purdue's community smaller right away.
Exactly.
'Cause it's a big campus, but you can definitely find people with shared interests, and that's one of the formal ways that you can find it.
I can always tell if I'm working with a learning community classroom because on day one they're already making noise.
They're not the quiet group.
Yep. They all know each other.
They're all
already.
comfortable already, right? I mean, and so with the others, like this semester, they didn't really start making a lot of noise until after they were in their regular team and they got to meet the same 4 people for a couple of classes. And now, okay, now it's getting loud. I'm like, this is good.
Yeah.
There it is. You knew that those connections had been made. And then kind of another question that we sometimes get is, what are some of the common struggles that students have in this first year engineering program? And then what resources do we have to help them kind of succeed in that? So what are some of those struggles that people run into a lot that you see with your students?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing, I've been doing this for a long time. The biggest problem is students come to us. I mean, many of our students come to us and they're like, I've never gotten less than an A on anything.
Yep.
We have a lot of high achieving students at Purdue.
Yes. Right. And so
In high
suddenly
school.
they're like surrounded by a bunch of other high achieving students. And now in first year, we're committed, if everyone still does an exceptional job, everyone can still succeed.
Get an A, right.
You're not
Yeah, or
competing
get an
against
E.
other
Yeah.
students, and that's huge. Nevertheless, a bunch of students are they're seeing new things. The material is maybe at a quicker pace than they've had before, but at the same time, they're also making all this adjustment to college life, right? And then, I have a student standing in front of me, and it's the first time, and it's not even a final grade of less than an A, right?
Yeah.
Because they're probably going to get
the
an A.
mid-semester grade.
Yeah, they're probably going to get an A in the course, right? But they got less than an A on one thing.
Assignment.
Whether it's a homework assignment or a test or whatever, right? And they're honestly, the lip is quivering and and I'm like, it's going to be okay.
Yep.
It's going to be okay. So that's, the biggest is just this adjustment of expectations, right?
Yes.
Part of engineering is failure. You learn from your mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes. And the second part really is in first year engineering, as well as around Purdue, we don't stigmatize mental health issues.
No.
We don't stigmatize the struggles that students go through, right? So when it comes to providing resources, it's just a matter of figuring out what
What works best.
So some students have accommodations, I can't really focus on taking a test when I'm surrounded by 120 people who are all stressing out.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool.
Yep.
And we have a solution for that. Or it's, I've had students, one of my teams came to me, there are 3 students, and I know that one of the students is missing. I'm like, okay,
Where's the 4th?
yeah, where's Kim, right? And they're like, okay, so Kim reached out to us. Kim's father is dying in Korea, so he's gone. I'm like,
Wow.
okay, so Korea's in a very different time zone.
Yes.
Have you worked out when he's not attending to his father, are you in touch with Kim? And they're like, yes, we are. I'm like, cool. If you can work it out and and he can stay involved, we're done.
Yeah.
I don't need to be involved, and everything's fine. But when students need stuff from us, whether it's a reference to advising or mental health services or if it's we're super transparent about a lot of the academic stuff. So in class, we have a test coming up in first year. In
You can
class,
tell they're starting to get a little nervous.
in
about
class
it. Yep.
yesterday, right? They're freaking out, right? And I'm like, okay, so first, all of the instructions for the exam are already posted.
Okay.
So read those now,
Read 'em, please.
to make sure, 1, that they make sense, but 2, that will let you think about what you're going to expect, right?
Yeah.
And then it's okay, so the stuff I'm teaching today, I say to my students, the stuff I'm teaching today isn't on the exam because you don't have time to practice that thing, get feedback on that thing, and know what you're doing. So we're not going to, that's not on the test, right? And they're like, oh, oh, that's good.
You know,
You're not out to get them.
Yeah, right. And then on our learning management system, there's like a list. Like these are the learning objectives for this exam.
Right.
And it's literally a list of you should be able to do this and this and this and this and this. Right.
Yep.
And I tell my students, read the list. If you read a thing and you're like, I can do that, you probably don't need to spend a lot of time studying that thing.
Right.
But if the next thing on the list is like, I don't know if I know how to do that, then
Start
that will
studying.
be on the exam.
Yeah.
So part of it is just, I mean, a bunch of the supports are just built in for everybody, whether they need them or not.
Right.
And then for the students who need any other kinds of supports, then we're just like we just need to figure out what is it that you need, and we'll direct you to the right place.
That's awesome. And that they can go to their professor too. Because I know the common misconception with coming to college is that your professors are unreachable. They're just doing research and you never get to talk to them. But I mean, first of all, we're sitting here with a professor.
Definitely not the case.
But that hearing that is so great because, it kind of takes out that stigma that, they're unreachable. They're not here because you guys are humans too. And you want us to succeed. You're not out here to fail us all. And you are really, you're committed. This is why you took the job, is because you want students to learn. So it's great to hear that on that side. And I know it's really, we've talked about this quite a bit on the podcast, is that it's just reaching out and finding what works best for you, right? And the needs that you have in any way, shape, or form, finding that as well and kind of what, works best.
Mm-hmm. You got to take the initiative. I said that in our last episode, and it's true.
It is.
You have to take the step to find and achieve the resources that you need to succeed. And whether that you actually need a resource or you just need to sit and decompress on your own, as you said, and failure is something that you're going to experience.
It's part of life.
In engineering, in life, just in general. And it's about the fact that you can pick yourself back up and continue moving forward and learn from any mistakes that you made. That's what really defines an engineer.
And I think
part of it.
Yeah, and the courses, and the subjects that I've learned the most from are the ones that I failed big time. I got that, that C or D or whatever it was, the grade on my exam, and I just looked at it and I, was like, but it really pushed me to learn and then also adjust to what is actually being asked of me as a person and asked me as a student. And I think that was one of the big things that, is a part of engineering. And I think that all starts from the first year engineering, is that really figuring out, what do you need as a person, but also how do you, prepare yourself personally to succeed. And I think that feeds into this one last question we have for you, Dr. Ohland. Is Purdue Engineering or the first year engineering program a weed out program? That's always a big one. I should have done my quotation marks. I'm doing them right now for those listening online. Is it a weed out program?
Wow, yeah, we get that a lot. We get that question a lot, right? From students who either, they're worried that it is or they've heard that it is, right? Okay, so no.
Sigh of relief there for everyone listening. Ooh, okay.
Engineering generally isn't a weed out program. We were talking about this earlier. Like some of my research is actually on this, where when we lose students from engineering, other students don't take their place. So what happens is our students, they see people sort of disappear. and so even the students in the program sometimes feel like it's a weed out program because, we're losing some students. Everybody loses some students because sometimes life happens, but also people find something else that they're more passionate about. And if that's what happens in that first year when students are trying to figure out what engineering major they're in, if in fact what they find out is oh my God, I'm super passionate about a different thing. Yes, good.
You found it.
Do that thing. Right? And people are do people drop out of engineering because it's hard? And that kills me too because what I tell my students is everything is hard if you want to be good at it.
Yeah.
And so it's not like
That's
engineering is harder
quote.
than the other things. It's just different hard.
Right.
You have to put in the work wherever you're going to be if you want to get somewhere.
Not everything's just going to come, right? You got to actually do the work. But also, if you're doing what you love, you should enjoy it along the way. And
even if it is hard, if it's the right fit for you, it's going to be rewardingly hard.
Yep.
All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Ohland,
It's been
for
a pleasure.
joining us and for your insights. We've really enjoyed having you on this episode. We do have one more question before we sign you off. What's one piece of advice that you would give to incoming first-year engineering student?
Wow. There's so many.
It's like picking your favorite child, right? Which piece of advice do you want to? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think just sort of don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
I think is a biggie, right? I mean, the big picture is, we've got a lot of support around here. Like, don't be embarrassed to seek it, but also don't worry about the point here
Right.
on stuff. Like, I mean, I referencing your, the failure is an option. It's always an option. Like,
Yeah.
I got a D+ in linear algebra and differential equations. Like,
And here you are as a successful career.
It's
It's
working
not
okay.
going to hold you back.
Yeah. So yeah. Don't sweat the small stuff and ask for help when you need it.
That's a great piece of
Great
advice.
piece of advice.
And I know that, as I've learned as a college student, I'm sure Calvin as well, you've learned recently that it is, I mean, getting down to the nitty gritty of it, it's not about the points, it's about the experience. And it's about
the learning.
Yeah. That concludes this week's podcast. As always, please reach out to the Office of Future Engineers with any further questions.
We'll see you next week.
Hey, y'all, it's us again. We have many opportunities for you to actually connect with our podcast.
Yeah, so you can send an email to the email down below on your screen and send us a picture of you enjoying your coffee break with us, you and your coffee mug.
Yes, send us a selfie. And if also send us your mug if you want to be featured at the podcast. We have our address also linked below if you would like to send us our mug. And we'd love to feature your mug on our podcast with our next upcoming episodes. Thank you so much.
See you guys next time.